joke? You think you can just hide things from me?
Maya, wait, hey!
Look at it! Nothing! Nothing but lies!
That's enough. Put it down. Mom, you're okay, sweetie. I've got you. Maya, talk to me.
Mom, please stop. Those were the only words Amira could force out as she shielded herself, her breath trembling in the dim light of the hallway. Something crashed. Something else shattered. And in that frozen moment, she wondered if anyone in the world could hear her at all. Then keys at the door, footsteps, a voice she recognized. Everything shifted in an instant, but not in the way she expected. Because when her father walked in early, the truth finally exploded into the open. This is the unraveling behind the little black girl who begged for mercy at home. Welcome, story lovers. From where are you watching? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. Before the world outside ever had a chance to hurt her, little Amira had already learned that some houses could feel colder on the inside than winter streets. At just 7 years old, she moved through her home the way someone tiptoes across thin ice carefully, quietly, hoping nothing beneath her cracked. From the outside, the house looked peaceful. With its soft yellow paint and tidy garden, her father's garden, bursting with color. Neighbors often commented on how lucky the family seemed and how bright its future looked. But if anyone had stepped closer, if anyone had listened a little harder, they would have sensed something else lingering behind the walls. Amira was a gentle child who loved drawing suns with long rays and butterflies that seemed ready to float right off the page. Her father, Marcus, always told her she had an artist's heart. He worked long hours at the warehouse but came home each night with stories and smiles that wrapped her up like warmth on a cold day. Those were the moments she lived for, the ones that made her feel safe enough to breathe. Her mother, Lorraine, wasn't always the storm she would later become. There had been a time when she laughed freely, humming old jazz songs as she brushed Amira's hair. But something changed slowly at first, then all at once. The weight of financial strain, untreated trauma, and the bitterness she carried from her own childhood began to seep into the home like a shadow stretching across the floor. Marcus tried to hold everything together, but his long hours meant he rarely saw what simmered while he was gone. The neighbors heard things, raised voices, sharp sounds, silence thick enough to make anyone uneasy. Yet they kept their distance. After all, people told themselves families had struggles. It wasn't their place. And in the middle of it all was Amira, trying to navigate a life that looked normal from the outside but felt like something entirely different on the inside. She sensed the tension rising, the air tightening day by day, though she couldn't yet understand why. All she knew was that something was coming, something she could feel even if she couldn't name it yet. The shift in the home did happen in one moment. It built itself slowly, like a storm gathering strength long before the first strike of lightning. Lorraine's anger became unpredictable, moving through the house like a cold wind that slammed doors and silenced laughter. Amira learned the rhythm by heart, the creak of the hallway floorboards, the sharp scrape of a chair, the heavy footsteps that meant she should shrink. Lorraine's small. Her drawings became the only place where the world still felt gentle. Marcus noticed things, but not enough of them. He saw the tiredness in Lorraine's eyes, the strain in her voice. But every time he asked if she was okay, she brushed him off. Just exhausted, she'd say. Just stressed. And he believed her, because he had to, because the alternative was too heavy to think about. But the neighbors, they heard more than Lorraine did. Sometimes they paused on their porches when Lorraine's voice spilled through open windows. Sharp and harsh, she'd hear Amira's small voice trying to soothe, trying to calm, trying to survive in ways a child should never have to. Still, no one stepped forward. People didn't want trouble. People didn't want to get involved in Lorraine's, so they stayed silent. And silence can be its own kind of a mire. As weeks passed, Lorraine's frustration twisted into something darker. It wasn't always physical. Didn't have to be. Sometimes it was the did tunes, she said. The way she didn't look at Amira like she was an inconvenience rather than a daughter. Other times it was the way she ignored her entirely. But the Lorraine scent came when anger overpowered reason. The Howazin told tremble then, absorbing echoes of things Amira wished she could forget. One afternoon, everything escalated. Lorraine's mood was darker than usual, her face tight with a fury that had no clear source. Ma, it could be the bills on the counter. Perhaps it was the phone call that had ended too quickly. Maybe it was the weight of a world that treated her as less, only for her to pass that pain on to the last person she could reach. Whatever the cause, Amira knew danger the moment her mother's eyes landed on her. The neighbors heard the noise bags falling, furniture shifting, Amira's voice trembling as she begged her mother to stop. But still, no one intervened. The world outside kept moving, pretending it didn't hear. Amira's small hands trembled. She cried out, whispered desperate little promises that she would be good, that she would be quiet, that she would disappear if it made things better. But nothing softened Lorraine's anger that day. Not even her daughter's fear. Adidant know when Amira's like the storm inside the home might swallow her whole. A sound cut through everything, a sound that changed the air.keys.jingling. Then the front door opened, far earlier than usual. Marcus was home, and Lorraine's everything, Marcus, stood in his daughter's doorway for only a second. But to him it felt like a lifetime. The scene in front of him struck harder than any blow he had ever endured. Amira pressed into a corner, eyes red and wide with terror. And Lorraine towering over her, her anger still burning hot in the air. The house felt colder than he'd ever known it to be. The truth hit him like a punch, straight to the chest, all the little signs he brushed off, all the excuses he believed. Every night, he blamed exhaustion for the tension he felt. It was all right there, raw and undeniable. Lorraine turned, startled, as if she'd been caught holding something she didn't know how to put down. But Marcus could see clearly, now this wasn't a momentary lapse. This was a pattern. This was a home falling apart from the inside. He stepped forward, not with rage, but with a kind of heartbreak that hollowed him out. He scooped Amst into his arms, feeling her tiny body against him. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Everything that had been holding in poured out silently through the way she clung to him. Lorraine started to speak, to defend herself, but the words fell apart in the air. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His silence alone changed the temperature of the Dimpekus no didn't, and nothing washed the same. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. That night became the breakthrough. Mark realized that protecting Amira meant more than working long hours and providing a roof. It meant facing a truth he had avoided for far too long. He made a decision quietly, firmly, without the anger that had once burned through the house. The next morning, he gathered Amira's drawings, her clothes, and her favorite little stuffed bear, and he walked out the front door with her in his arms. Lorraine watched, her face a conflict of regret, denial, and unresolved pain. She had her own story, her own wounds shaped by a world that had been unkind to her from childhood. Amira's unhealed wound had turned her into what she once feared most, and Marcus could no longer hope time alone would fix what had already broken. For Amira, the transition was disorienting at first. New routines, new quiet, new warmth she wasn't used to feeling every day. But slowly she began to draw again, bright suns, colorful skies, pictures filled with hope instead of fear. Marcus worked tirelessly to give her what she had been missing: stability, love, peace. This wasn't the kind of story that ended perfectly, but it was one where it wasn't until it was finally safe. And sometimes that is the most powerful ending of all. Their story is not rare. Countless children are living in silence, unseen behind doors that neighbors walk past every day. And the question that wasn't heavy and unavoidable is, how many echoes must go unheard before someone chooses to listen? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories and stay connected for the next one.